Although the 2025 Heisman ceremony isn't for another 10 months, it's never too early to start looking at the odds for next year. Despite the season being a long way off, the betting market is ready to take all your money when it comes to the Heisman Trophy. The odds are out, so let's take a look at who the way too early favorites are to win the 2025 award. But before we get to today's video, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications if you're new to my channel. If you're watching this video, odds are you love college football, and odds are you aren't subscribed to my channel, so make sure to subscribe to one of the best college football communities here on YouTube. As of right now, the way too early favorite to win the Heisman next year is Arch Manning, who comes in at 7-1 odds. After sitting behind Quinn Ewers for the last couple of years, it's finally going to be Manning's time to be the starting quarterback for the Longhorns. We've seen him in spurts over the last couple of years for Texas, but we still haven't seen him get the full run as the starting quarterback yet. Well, that's going to change in 2025. There's a lot of hype surrounding Arch Manning, and for good reason. So seeing him as the betting favorite, that doesn't really come as a total surprise for me. He probably would have been my guess, or someone I definitely would have put inside the top 2 or 3. Now up next, I do think this is a bit of a surprise, as LSU quarterback Garrett Nussmeier, he enters with the second best odds currently at 9-1. Now he did have a pretty solid season for LSU this past year, and I do think his numbers went a little bit under the radar because of how disappointing of a season LSU had. He's likely going to light up the stat sheet once again. It just all comes down to whether or not LSU is a good team in 2025. Up next are a couple of other quarterbacks who are returning in 2025 in Drew Aller and Cade Klubnik. Now Drew Aller having the third best odds at 10-1, that's a little bit surprising because although he's a solid quarterback, I don't think he's necessarily going to put up the numbers that are required to win the Heisman Trophy. Now maybe Penn State's offense completely revamps in 2025, but I just can't see him throwing for 3,500 yards or 35 passing touchdowns, again the stats that are required to win the Heisman Trophy. Cade Klubnik is an interesting one for Clemson because he really turned things around this past season. I was out on him entering the 2024 year because he just didn't look like he could be that guy for Clemson, but he showed a lot of flashes, and I thought he looked really damn good in 2024. If he's able to improve on his numbers from last season, and Clemson is once again a playoff caliber team, I think Cade Klubnik definitely can be in the conversation. Up next, we have a couple of Ohio State players in quarterback Julian Sayin and wide receiver Jeremiah Smith. Now this is actually pretty interesting considering their odds are nearly identical. Now if I were to guess, I think Jeremiah Smith probably has the better chance of taking home the Heisman Trophy. He was making the case as the best receiver in all of college football this past year as a true freshman, so with another year under his belt, you would think that he's going to improve on his numbers from last year. Now if he posts some incredible numbers again and they make a majority of Julian Sayin's numbers, then obviously the honor is going to go to Smith. But if Jeremiah Smith has a terrific season, but Julian Sayin really posts some elite numbers, then he could probably be in the conversation as well. Up next, you have a couple of quarterbacks who had really disappointing seasons last year. We'll start with Tennessee quarterback Nico Iamaleava. Now last year, he was right around this point as well. I think he was something like 20-1 odds to win the Heisman Trophy. He had a really disappointing 2024 campaign, and honestly, I'm pretty surprised he's this high in the preseason odds. Carson Beck was another quarterback that had really high odds last year, and I honestly think at one point in the offseason, he might have been the betting favorite. And I hate to admit this, he was my preseason pick last year to win the Heisman as well. He has 20-1 odds as he transferred from Georgia to Miami. Now if things couldn't really go right for him at Georgia, I don't know how they're necessarily going to get better at Miami, so seeing him at 20-1 odds, yeah, I'm not so certain about that. South Carolina quarterback Lenora Sellers comes in at 22-1 odds, and I'm a little bit surprised he was this high. He was solid for the Gamecocks over the second half of the season, but I just don't know if I could see him posting the Heisman caliber numbers that'll be required for him to win, especially since this isn't a guy that's likely going to throw for 3,500 yards next year. Georgia quarterback Gunnar Stockton, he's next at 25-1 odds. Yeah, I mean, if everyone saw him play at the end of the year, I really don't know how he's at 25-1 odds. Sure, he could get better than what we saw this past year, but man, if he's going to win the Heisman Trophy, we're going to have a completely different quarterback plan. Some other quarterbacks with 25-1 odds are Florida quarterback DJ Lagway and Oregon quarterback Dante Moore. We'll start with Lagway, who did show a lot of promise for Florida this past year, but I don't know if the Gators are going to be good enough team in 2025 for him to be in the discussion. Then you have Dante Moore, who was once a highly touted quarterback who started at UCLA and is is now at Oregon. He's been waiting for a couple of years, so given the keys, he might be the real deal, but we really haven't seen anything from him to warrant him being this high in the Heisman odds. Those are the favorites, so we'll go now to the next batch, the players that are still high in the odds, but they're still considered to be long shots. Now, when looking at these players, I do like John Mateer, Oklahoma's new quarterback. He was arguably one of the best quarterbacks in all of college football this past season. If you don't know what his numbers were like at Washington State, go and look them up because he was truly doing everything on the ground and through the air. I just don't think Oklahoma is going to be good enough for him to be in the Heisman discussion. Now, if John Mateer finishes next season top 5 in total yards, top 5 in passing yards, passing touchdowns, he's among the quarterback leaders in rushing yards and rushing touchdowns, I wouldn't be surprised. But like I said, I don't think Oklahoma is going to be good enough for him to be in the final discussion. A player I really like, and there may be some bias here, but that's Arizona State quarterback Sam Leavitt, who has 45-1 odds. Leavitt really came on in the second half of Arizona State as he nearly led them to the semifinal of the college football playoff. There have been some reports that I've seen so far on Twitter this spring that suggest that Sam Leavitt could emerge as one of the best quarterbacks in all of college football next season. Now, if you didn't watch any Arizona State games and you only look at the stat sheet, then his numbers aren't really Heisman caliber, but I do think he's going to take the next step in 2025, and I do think he's going to finish the year as a top 5 quarterback in all of college football. When looking at the rest of these odds, you have a couple of notable names in Miller Moss, Kevin Jennings, and Avery Johnson. They're all 50-1. You also have former Oklahoma quarterback in Jackson Arnold, who transferred to Auburn this offseason. Finally, some other notable ones, you have Nebraska quarterback Dylan Raiola, he's at 70-1 odds, and you have Caden Salter at 80-1 odds. Again, these are the way too early preseason odds for the Heisman Trophy. If I were to guess, by the time July and August roll around, these odds are going to look entirely different. If I were to guess, the current top 10 is probably not going to look anything like that, and a lot of these players that have these long shot odds, they're probably going to climb up as the season gets a lot closer. But I thought it was interesting taking a look at these preseason odds and seeing what the betting market currently likes and what they don't like. Well, that wraps it up for today's video. What are your thoughts on these way too early Heisman odds? Was there a player whose odds were way too high, or was there a player whose odds were way too low? Also, was there a player who didn't even make it into this video that should be on here? Something fun that I want to see you guys do in the comments down below. If you were given $100 to make any bet on the 2025 Heisman, who would you be voting on? Would you play it safe and bet on one of the favorites, or is there a long shot that you would put money on that gives you a big payday? Whatever you would do with that bet, let me know in the comments down below. Before you leave, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications if you're new to my channel. I'm posting college football videos all off season long, so make sure to subscribe so you never miss a video. Also, don't forget to drop a like on this video as well. It helps out with that YouTube algorithm, and it helps share this video and my channel with more college football fans. Plus, it only takes a second to do. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video.